Hi. Okay, so today our toilet has been running in the big bathroom for I don't know how long. Ed and I just kind of noticed it over time that it sounded like it was running, and I finally found that it was, and he had indicated that it was probably the flush valve that was doing it. Our problem is the big guy, his work schedule was so crazy that we waited a little while, and I have decided that I'm going to try to do this. He's home today. I've got him hopefully going to help paint the what I call the babies room, but they're not babies anymore. My grandkids are turning 8, 13, and 14. Isn't that crazy? This fall we have 3 birthdays, and they're all going to have a birthday. They'll be turning 8, 13, and 14. Crazy in my household to think that I'm old enough to have grandkids like that big. I'm just sad. Anyway, so I'm going to try to do this. Now, I have already gotten out everything, hopefully, that I think I need, except they said I might need a hacksaw, and they said I might need a pipe wrench. Now, I don't own a pipe wrench, so big guy might have to get me a pipe wrench out. He's not sure I need it, so we're just going to go with it and see. Now, I want to show you guys what I have done and talk about why I have gotten out the things that I've gotten out before we get started, just to help, just to kind of help go through what and why and how and all that fun stuff. So let's go ahead and get started. First of all, if you've got a running toilet and you're not sure what's going on, you could shut off the water, and we'll talk about that here in a few, and then either mark your tank with a Sharpie or food coloring, okay? And I have not done that because we already know what is wrong with the toilet, just over years of having, lots of toilets and lots of kids and everything else. So you could you could shut off the water at the wall. You could mark the edge of your water line. Since the water's going to be off, you can just walk away. And if water is out of the tank, even, I don't know, ½ inch to an inch or whatever, then you're going to know it's probably the flush valve doing it. And I'm going to show you all that here in a minute too. So either you're not sure, you can shut off the water because you don't want it to fill back up while you're not in the room, then you're never going to know if it's doing it. So unless you happen to hear it like we did. So mark your water line after you shut the water off, either A, using any color Sharpie you want. I would have probably chosen pink. Or B, food coloring. So food coloring would allow you to see inside where the water is inside the bowl, and you're going to go, oh, yep, it ran. So, and we'll talk more about that here in 2 seconds too. So food coloring or a Sharpie, mark your water line, put a dab or two of food coloring in, maybe just squish it just a smidge, and walk away. Now, let's get my bucket out of the way, and we'll talk about more about that. So you put the food coloring in the back, okay, or you mark your water line where the water would be, and then if you turn around and look in here, and if there's any food coloring in there, you're going to know that your toilet ran even just a little bit, okay? Now, our problem here is we have really hard water, and so we do have like a rust mark, and you're going to see that. I went ahead and kind of scrubbed that as well. I'm going to rinse it a little bit too, because when I go ahead and do all this, I don't want, some of this was flaking off, and what I don't want that to do is get underneath the new valve and cause any issues. So we're going to go ahead, and I scrubbed it just a little. I'm going to rinse the tank out before we do anything when we get ready to go. But I have to take this excess water out of the tank, and then I'm going to disconnect the lines, and I'm going to go ahead and record step by step what I'm doing. But first, what I've done, okay, is I've gotten a bucket and couple sponges. I didn't use this step because I already know what's wrong with my toilet, so we're going to move that out of the way. I had to grab a bowl, any bowl, whatever. I keep extra bowls. People come over, they want to eat, they want to take leftovers home. You let them borrow your containers, whether it's Rubbermaid, whether it's Pampered Chef, whatever, right? Or Tupperware, store-bought, whatever. And then they never find their way back. A long time ago, I went over to my mom's and she had some of my really good Tupperware and I stole them back. So I keep these under the kitchen counter now. So if anybody's like, oh, can I take some home? I'm like, sure, here. So, and this way I can throw this away. So this is going to be for one of the lines that we're going to disconnect off the toilet. We'll get to that in a minute too. Now, let's go ahead and talk about what the names of some of these things are. And I have labeled them as we went just to make it easier for me to talk to you guys. Because honestly, I didn't know either, right? So let's go ahead and get started. So this is one of the first things that I pulled out of the box. I bought a kit, and this kit had everything I needed in it, and I can show you the kit too. They are not sponsoring this video, okay? It's just the kit that I happened to buy. So this is what I bought. It's a whole kit, and in this kit, I received this little guy here. I received this and this. So let me tell you guys, let's go through here and let's discuss parts, because if you're going to be like me and you're going to watch a video and you're going to go, I'm going to learn how to do this, you're going to need to know what everything is and what it's labeled and what it's called. What was included was the heck nuts, the wing nuts, the metal washers, and all that fun stuff. So we'll get to all that here in a minute. So, flush valve. This tube here is considered your flush valve, okay? This apparatus here, the green, is considered your water-saving flapper. The chain is just considered a corrosion-resistant chain. Of course, this screws in, if you can see the threads there. You can see those threads. Watertight bowl gasket. Mounting hardware. Okay? Tools I have gotten together. My Starbucks. I consider that a tool because, you know, I don't want to be cranky later. So I'm drinking tea. I don't drink coffee. I like the smell of it. So it said I would need a flathead, but I went ahead and grabbed a Phillips too. Obviously flathead, right? And then Phillips. Phillips is the one that looks like a star. Adjustable wrench. This is not mine, but look how little it is. I think I'm going to steal it. I have a tool bag of my own. And then I grabbed a couple of these. Originally I grabbed mine, which is small. I've got little hands, so I like the small things. Ed, this is one of Ed's that I've stolen a long time ago. It was in my toolbox. He probably heard that because he's just over across the hall. I also grabbed a couple extra towels. These are just household work cloths that I use. You guys can see this guy. This is what we're going to need this bowl for. So what we're going to do is we're going to end up putting this bowl here, just so when I disconnect this line here, let me get closer so you guys can see. When I disconnect this, I'm going to wrap this in a towel, and then I'm going to place it upside down in that bowl, and then water's going to start to run out. But before we disconnect this line, we already know there's water in the tank. Not much, because I've already shut off the water. So before I disconnect this, I'm going to go ahead, finish emptying the tank. And I'm not going to record that because it's just going to be tedious and you guys aren't going to want to watch that. It's like paint drying, right? You're not going to want to spend that much time with me. So, but I will go ahead and we're going to undo this here in a minute. I've already got the water shut off. What happens though if you go to turn your water off and it feels stuck? Just kind of wiggle it lightly back and forth. And then that way, it might just be, sometimes they get kind of, just household dust and dirt and things like that. They get a little rusty and then they just won't want to work. Lightly twist it back and forth as you go and it'll help turn it on and off. And randomly, really, it's not bad to maybe just go ahead and shut that off now and then, or just twist it just to keep it from kind of getting locked up. But you're going to want to know how to do this, guys, because if you're ever at home and you have a kid or grandkid that's overflowed the bowl, you're going to need to know how to shut the water off if you're alone. So, and then you're going to want some time to even know where your main water shutoff is, because say your washing machine is overflowing or your hot water heater or a pipe has burst. You're going to need to know how to shut off the water, but that's the main water shutoff line is in a whole nother video that we'll talk about. So go ahead and plan on knowing how to shut that off too. So I am going to, I've got everything laid out. I've got some towel, I've got a couple trash bags laid out. I don't have like a big cement pan or a dish pan. So I've got some trash bags laid out, I've got some old rugs laid out, and then I've got some old towels laid out, all on top of each other, stacked, so I don't hopefully get the floor ruined. So wish me luck there. I'm gonna go ahead and get started in getting this water out, and then that way you guys can kind of see where we go from here. And hopefully I'm not shouting because Ed is also working across the hall, and I don't want you guys to not be able to hear anything I'm doing. So I am gonna go ahead and get started here. I'm going to go ahead and put some gloves on there just because I had one of those pills that you can put in that helps keep your toilet bowl clean. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to wash my hands, put those gloves on, and then I'm going to get busy, okay? So let's get the water out of the bowl, and then we'll get started. Okay, so you cannot see me because I have you on one side of the toilet. So I'm right here. Let's go ahead and I'm going to disconnect this water line that is attached to the back of my toilet. I'm going to get a towel down because it's already leaking. Grab this extra towel. I brought 2 towels, one just to put down for any leak that might happen as I remove this. And that's not as bendable as they act like it is. So we're just going to keep this. Try to get it out of the way as best I can. I'm going to go ahead and wrap this towel around it. Not too bad, guys. It was actually easy. I didn't use any tools. It was actually easy enough to use my hands on it. So that's pretty awesome. Next, we are going to see about loosening up. Now we're going to try to loosen up these bolts that hold the tank onto the bowl. So of course this part that the water is in with all the parts that flush, it's called a tank. Then this part here is called the bowl that you sit on, that you put your bum on. This is the bowl, so tank and bowl. Next we're going to go ahead and I'm going to loosen these, or hopefully loosen them, and we're going to bring in the big guns if I can't use my own hands to do it. But we're hoping that I can do this without, and I got to move my phone just so I don't bump it. Hello. I don't want to scare you guys. There are some pretty people on Facebook and YouTube. I am not one of them. I do take care of myself, or I try. Okay, we're going to change tools here. Honestly, it might be easier if I go grab a socket. It might just be easier, I'm thinking. So I'll be back, okay? Break time. He's gonna go get us some sockets. I don't own sockets, but I might have to start stealing some, don't you guys think? So Starbucks is also not sponsoring this video, but it's going to keep me sane while I'm going through all this. So, I'll be back, okay? We're going to grab a socket. Oh, I also forgot to tell you, I grabbed a bucket of warm soapy water, another sponge, and a toothbrush that I used to clean, just because I may end up needing to clean like underneath the bowl and around the edges and all that before we put the new bolts on. So now we have this. I think it's going to work too. So let's check. I'm way too excited, huh? Okay. I told him what I needed, and he made it happen. Oh, it's working. Well, looky there. That was easy. Wasn't that easy? Holy snap. We might have to there we go. Okay, I'll be back. Okay, so the only other issue I had was once I started to take this off, the whole nut and bolt started to spin. So now that I got just one loosened, just this one, I had managed to get my little tiny pliers in. So let's finish loosening this and take this off. But yeah, once I broke the one free, it was easily off, and look what we got. So we'll take this off. Let's go get the other side. I need a different screwdriver and a flashlight. I'll be right back. Always something, always something. So this other one's not breaking free, but I needed a flashlight and a bigger screwdriver, because what I need to do is reach inside the bowl, grab the head of the screw, put the screwdriver into it, and hold while we twist at the bottom to break this other one free, because the other one was so easy. I mean, it was like 2 seconds, but if you can see the screw head here, okay? If you can see that screw head. So on this other side, I'm going to reach in there, I'm going to put the screwdriver in, and I'm going to hold it, and we might have to ask for an extra set of hands. I hope not, because I'm trying. I've never done this, guys. Never done this. But I've watched him do it, and I watched a couple YouTube videos. So I was like, I think I can do it. So I'm going to try, but I need another different screwdriver, and I needed a flashlight, because I couldn't see inside the bowl while my big head was in the way, trying to find that, to hold it and then spin it, and, I'll explain more. Hang on. Be back. Thank God I got small hands. Check this out, okay? Oh, by the way, I'm not holding the camera. So I got my hands in there. I put the screwdriver in there. I'm going to hold on to the screw while big guy goes ahead, and here, I'll move my hands for a second. Thank God for small hands, right? So I'm going to hold that, and I had to ask for a little bit of help. I just wanted to show you guys what I had to do. So thank God for small hands. You could have done this with a larger, longer screwdriver. I didn't have one. So this is how we're going to do it, but I have small hands, so I'm going to do this part, and I'm asking for assistance, and he's going to break the screw loose at the bottom. So we'll be right back, okay? Okay, I'm not going to record every step as I go, but I'm just going to tell you what I'm going to do real quick and how I'm going to do it. I am going to take the old pieces out now. I'm going to go ahead and take this part off, and we're going to clean all this. These are the bolts that we loosened and took off, so those will get pulled out. And then I'm also going to go ahead and take the old flush valve tube and the flapper and all that out, clean around the outside and inside of those, and then that way we get a good seal. I also went ahead and cleaned this part where it all sits in, so we want that to be nice and clean too, and that looks really icky. So we're going to go ahead and I cleaned all this. I'm going to make sure it's nice and dry before I start to put everything back on it, but I'm going to make sure I clean it. I'm letting it dry, and I'm going to clean it one more time, just to make sure there's no grime, grease, or anything on there that could prevent that seal from really sealing good. Also, I'm going to have Ed cut the bolts, the new bolts, so they're not so long when I put the tank back on. because what you don't want is to be underneath the bowl cleaning the floor and cleaning the back of the toilet, bottom of the floor, and end up running that bolt across the top of your arm, which is never any fun. I think we've all done that, but we're going to get the new pieces on. I'm going to go ahead and clean where the old is, and then I'll be back, okay? So, I'll be back. Okay, so I took the other piece off. We're going to unscrew this now. God, icky that is. Ugh. Okay, so this piece was here, and then now we have this nut thing here. We're going to go ahead and take this piece off too, because this comes with a new one with our new flush valve kit. So take this off first. I just used a screwdriver to kind of get in between there, and then pulled it right off. This off next. I'm going to throw them in the bucket, because I already emptied the bucket into the toilet. And now, try not to flash you. Now we're going to go ahead and flip this up, and we're going to get some of the inside pieces out. So I'll be back. I'm telling you, hard water, because we live out in the middle of nowhere, guys. If you've seen any of my other videos, you know I live in the middle of nowhere. Cornfields, bean fields surround my house. So I took this piece off. It's grody. Oh. As if it looks like plumber's putty was on there. But this fit through, and then there was the nut over this, and then of course that plastic gasket was over top of this. I had to pull the tube out of the top of this. So, and this tube is really long, so I'm going to go ahead and clean up around all of the inside of the tank now, and that way, as I put everything back together, it stays nice and neat. Okay, and it also looks like they've used some of that putty down along this ridge, so we have to make sure all this is cleaned out because we want everything to sit well. But if you notice, and I still got to clean some more, but we're going to clean right here really, really well, where the bolts are going to attach back to the tank and the bowl itself. So we're going to clean this so this tank sits against the bowl and everything sits nice and neat, because we don't want any oopses once we get done. He'll never let me hear it at the end of it. So I'm going to go ahead and finish cleaning this mess up, because it looks like they've stuck putty in there. So I'll be back, okay? Gross. Okay, so I have cleaned all this up. Looks pretty good. I kind of half dried it with one of the rags that I brought in here with me. I could have put this in the tub and tried to scrape all that off and get it perfect, but we're not going to worry about it because we live in the country. It's going to come back. So I have cleaned up around the holes where the bolts are going to go. Also, I've cleaned up around where the flush valve is going to seat right there. It's time to put it back together and hope that we don't have any oopses. Okay, so I put the flush valve back in, but before I fully sat it in the hole, I did go ahead and put the tube in because I had a little spot for that tube. So before I got it all the way in there, I went ahead and kind of half sat the flush valve right here, inserted this tube, and then I pushed that further into the hole. Ed has set this up on the counter for me, so it'll make everything easier to put back together. And we're going to go ahead and get it all put back together. Okay, so then I put the nut back on to hold the flush valve in place, and then this just sits there. And before I do anything else, I am ready to holler for Ed. I can only lift a gallon of milk, so he did have to do the heavy lifting, but most of you out there would be able to lift the tank just fine. I cannot, so we're going to let the big guy put this tank back on, and let's get everything hooked back up, and hopefully I haven't messed anything up. Okay, we're almost there. Time for bolts. So we're going to put one of the rubber washers on, and then we're going to put one of these on over top of that rubber washer. And then we're going to go ahead, and once we get this inside put on the tank and the bowl, we're going to put another rubber washer, another metal, and then the bolt and the hex nut. So we're going to go ahead and do that next. So be back, almost done. We are almost in the home stretch, but I needed help, and I'll tell you why. So these are the old bolts. These are the new bolts. Oh, and by the way, I said wing nut and washer, or I said it backwards earlier, so just so you know. These are the old ones. This is the new one. They're thicker. So I need Ed's help because originally he was hoping for just to kind of sand out the opening just a little bit more, but it's going to take a lot longer to do it this route. So fingers crossed. So what he's going to have to do is he's going to have to make the hole bigger to fit the bolts. So I needed his help. You know, just go figure. If you ever plan to do this, do it early enough though, so if you need to run to the hardware store, you can. He's hoping we don't have to, which he was home, thank God, because then I would have been like, okay, I would have had to run to the hardware store and say, what do I do? Although I would have taken my bolts and tried to find maybe just a little bit smaller and gotten new washers and everything. But Ed's home, he's going to help me do that part, and then we'll be in the home stretch. So, you know, do this early enough where you know the hardware store's open, so that way if you need it, you can go ahead and run back out if needed, or reach out and say, hey, what do I do next? So just so you guys know, we are having this issue. These are the old ones. He really hates to use them because of the fact that they're older, and he doesn't want to risk the issue of these washers failing and having an issue with leakage between the tank and the bowl and having a water leak. So, and they're old. We don't know how old. And of course we have hard water because we are out in the country. We have a well and a septic system. So, you know, there's that issue. So he doesn't really want me to use the old ones, which I had proposed, but we also don't have any washers to fit this. So we're going to go ahead and try to do that part, and then I'm just going to finish everything, wrap it up. This has been a really long video just because I've taken my time and kind of explained to you guys each strand that I'm doing, because ladies, I want you to be able to do this and not have to feel like you have to either pay $300 or $500 to have it done, depending on where you live, or having to wait on your husband, which in my case, I've had the water shut off in this bathroom on this toilet for like 3 weeks now, just because it was running so much. And, you know, I just didn't want to have to. Now, granted, I don't have a water bill, but I do have the electric bill, and every time the pump has to kick on, then it costs money. So I'm going to go ahead, finish this up, and then just show you guys when I'm done, okay? Glad he's doing it, because I don't want to have to worry about breaking the tank. Okay, just so I was clear on what came next, he has made the holes just a little bit bigger using a rotary tool, kind of sort of like a Dremel. And then I put the bolts inside the tank with the washer, and then the tank sat here, and then next came the metal washer with the nut. So then it looks like this. So that is in. We're ready to put the tank on, and then these little things here will go on. So I'm gonna go ahead and have him lift this, put it in, and then we're gonna get the water on and hope everything goes well. I'll probably end this video and start another one because we're almost at 30 minutes, which is a really long video. But here you go. And then he can cut these off, make them a little smaller. But you'll see the metal washer and this here. And what that does is it helps smush. It helps, if you guys can see in here, it helps smush the rubber gasket in with the bolt. And then that way it seals using the rubber, and then hopefully no leaks, right? So we're going to go ahead and get this on, and then I'm going to end this one, and I'll probably just go ahead and start a quick one, and that way I can kind of tell you guys what I've learned and what was easier and what was hard and blah, you know, all that fun stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and we're going to get this thing put back on. Yay!